All right, I'm just going to end this session for all. Bye-bye. All right, go to meeting. That was a trip. All right. 27 people are in the waiting room. Admit all. Admit all. Come, my children. All right. Let's see. This is hysterical. I haven't had this many people in a Zoom call yet. All right, who's making digital popcorn? Go to meeting. That would be go to meeting. I was sorry. That was probably really loud for you guys because you were right here. I'm new here and haven't ever heard of this. Hi, welcome. So this is the Morbidly Curious Book Club. Thank you for attending and showing up and hopping on over. All right.
Now I gotta like move stuff because the camera view is like so. Now you see all of my counter. Sorry, I'm cooking dinner.
Let me see. All right. I'm still admitting people at 7:07. That's typically where we start a little bit after just to make sure everybody comes in. I need to make a quick announcement on the book club's page just in case somebody is coming in later. Hello from Australia. Hi. Hello from North Carolina. Not as exciting. Updates from Patches. Head
You
over
say
to
North
Zoom.
Carolina is not exciting, but you don't have like hello from Utah. I thought it
That
would
is true.
be probably in North Carolina. This way.
We are
As
discussing.
someone who lived in Utah, I believe North Carolina's way better.
Listen, I love North Carolina, but
I think
Although Meg is in
Utah's
Utah,
better.
so that makes it better. But
I love both.
Anywhere that's not Utah, Idaho, or Wyoming. No offense to people who live there. It's the
Mm,
landscape and lack of things to do.
hmm
The day I die. All right, at everybody. Hello. We are on Zoom, not go to meeting. Also from North Carolina. Hello, where's everybody in North Carolina? I am up in Vegas. Statesville. All right, I'm going to continue admitting people. Hey, thanks for showing up, everybody. What the hell? First of all, we are at almost, I think, 15 short last I checked. I probably need to recheck. Um, let's see, where the hell am I? We are at 10,900. Hurry up, book clubs. We were like 15 or something away from 11,000 book club members, which is nuts. 10,992 members right now. What in the world? Thank you guys. Um, Hi everybody. For those of you who don't know, my name is Patches. I host the Morbidly Curious Book Club. I started this back in 2021 as just kind of a dream. Like, hey, that'd be fun. I really would love to do that. And now here we are. So I appreciate you all being here. If you're new, welcome. Hi. Like I was mentioning in GoToMeeting, in case you missed it, we have two admins. There's a fly in here that's going to be driving me nuts. We have two admins, Rachel and Megan. They will be helping me in the chat. There is a chat down there in the bottom right. Let me know if you need help with any of that. Still admitting people. We are getting close to 100. Oh no. All right, 86. That's cool. Okay. This is our June meeting. We are discussing The Day I Die, The Untold Story of Assisted Dying in America by Anita Hanig. Hanig? I think I say her name a couple different times. But first, let me get through some housekeeping. And I had to type this out because I didn't want to say it incorrectly. And of course, it's gone. Where are you? I'm a really curious book club housekeeping. I'm here watching, but also dealing with kids. Hey, it's okay. All right. How this works. Let's pretend like we are all in this one big kumbaya circle, okay? We're going to use the raise your hand feature on Zoom. If you click reactions, it's an option. Click raise hand, and it actually puts you first in a queue. And that tells me who raised their hand first, and I'm able to go from there. Still admitting people. Cool. 90. Awesome. That's definitely a goal. Okay. Or that's definitely the highest that we've ever had. However, we're going to go around the room, act like we're in a circle. We're at like a really fun, cool library with really weird stuff around us. Picture it in your head, okay? We're going to go around in a circle. Just tell me if you like the book, if you didn't like the book, thoughts overall. And if somebody who's speaking says something that you kind of want to piggyback off of, and you just want to say something along the lines of, yeah, I thought that part was really interesting. As long as it's brief, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and just kind of say that. So you're not waiting in the queue to just piggyback off of what somebody said previously. Does that make sense? We're all good? Raise your hand feature. Can everybody find that button? Cool. If not, just like violently wave your hands and let me know that you're unable to find that because I think it's easily accessible on uh the iPhone app or the app. Anyway, so the first hour or so, I suspect it's going to be a little bit longer, but typically the first hour or so is the discussion. Since this is a bigger group, it might be a little bit longer. It's okay. Come hang out. It's a good time. But then we're going to have a little palate cleanser. I don't want everybody going home sad. Not that being sad's a bad thing. Let's just like talk about something else for a little bit afterwards as we're leaving. And at that point, the recording stops and we all just kind of hang. This is being recorded for YouTube. For those of you who could not make it, well, obviously you are here, but for those members who could not make it, I do upload this to YouTube most of the time. Sometimes there's like a little bit of a glitch with Zoom. More times than not, it's fine. 90% of the time, it's okay. We are at 99. Okay, we have capped. I'm so sorry to anybody who is unable to join at this point. If I click admit, what happens? Okay, it's reworking. All right, so palette cleanser. You can come and go as you please as well. I will let you right back in. If you do leave and then we hit that 100 mark, unfortunately, I can't let you back in at that point. Hop on over to the live. I am live on Instagram. And that's why I'll be looking down sometimes to check chat. I'm not ignoring you. I'm just looking down here. Hello, Instagram. There's like 150 people meeting right now. This is so cool. I've never had an issue with this, but I always want to say it at the start of a meeting. We discussed some pretty sensitive topics. I don't want anybody's feelings hurt. Let's be nice. Respect everybody's opinions. You know what they say? They're like assholes. Everybody has one. Okay. I suspect everything will be fine. We've never had an issue, but just understand that people here might have some differing opinions from you. Let's just have a discussion. This book obviously has a lot of things to discuss in it, so keep that in mind. Stay on track as best as you can. Again, there's a lot of people in here. Even if you just want to raise your hand and say, hey, my name is so-and-so, I really like the book. That's totally fine. But if you have like 5 minutes to say, that's also fine. Just let's try and stay on track. Let's try and keep it moving. I want to get through everybody. There's one reason why I really want to stick to Zoom meetings is because I think these books have a lot of great discussion points, and I want to hear what people have to say. I understand I could do this just live on Instagram, but I want to hear you guys. So, but again, with that being said, stay on track. You're free to leave, of course, as you please. I think I can share my screen on Zoom. That should be fine. I should be able to do that. Let me do that really quick because I just wanted to show you something really quick before we get started. Hello, hello. Da, 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 da. Share screen. As you guys know, this is our website. It is very simple. We just use beacons. It is in the link in my bio to everything. If anybody wants to join the book club, you can just tell them themorbidlycuriousbookclub.com. Really easy, really simple. The first bit here is just, hey, join the book club. Something really exciting is happening, and that is chapters are popping up around the United States. I'm hosting one in a town kind of near me, in Mooresville, North Carolina, but we have, as you can see from the list here, a couple of different places, Boston, Little Rock, Chattanooga, Dallas, Fort Worth, and more are coming. We just had somebody in Westchester, Pennsylvania sign up for a book club. So that's super exciting. If you don't see your city, if you just click this down here, it sends me an email. Tell me your name, what city you want, and I'll make sure that it's not, multiple chapters in one city. If we do ever get that, like we've had a lot of people wanting to start one in Dallas, Fort Worth. I just let them know that there is one currently, unless they're like on the complete other side of town and want to do something different. But that's a discussion that we will have if that ever does come up. So, fun fact, if you guys don't know, pretty sure you all do at this point because I don't shut up about it. I need to open my drink. This is non-alcoholic, by the way. Heineken. Zero alcohol. It's fantastic. I do have a podcast. I do chat every month with the author of that book that we are discussing, and I had a fantastic, fantastic conversation with our book club pick, Anita Hannig, today. I mean, the other day. She was fantastic. Had a lot of great things to discuss, including her opinion on things. there's been a lot of stuff in the news lately about people wanting to partake in assisted dying due to mental illness. We talked about that. There was like a girl, and I think in the Netherlands or Norway, I can't remember which one, who got approved, and she's like 29. We dive into that a little bit. We dive into some of the laws in different states and Canada. Fantastic conversation. If you would like to hear that, tune in. It's wherever you listen to podcasts. And of course, you could check out all the other podcast episodes that I did, including some updated ones. So obviously in January, we talked about dark archives. There was an update about Harvard removing the human skin bindings. I did an update episode on that. So definitely check that out. That's one way that you could really support the book club. Obviously, the book club is free to join, but that is one way to support it. If you would like to purchase any of the books that we have discussed, are discussing, or will discuss, I do get just like a small, like $1 to $2 commission from bookshop.org if you want to go through that and check out the books that we are reading or going to be reading. So if that is something you'd like to do, I get like $1, which it does add up. I appreciate it. But also, of course, merch, jewelry. I talk about the jewelry all the time. I'm wearing my Death Moth earrings. And I did announce today the 2025 lineup, which is super exciting. This is tentative. I genuinely think it's going to stay this way. However, we did have one book change this year. That's why I'm a little nervous about it. So this should be it. People on Instagram, I posted a picture of it. This should be it. I don't want to change it. I'm really excited about this lineup. Let's get into the meat and potatoes of this, shall we? The Day I Die by Anita Hanig, The Untold Story of Assisted Dying in America. I would love to know your thoughts and feelings. Go ahead and start raising your hands. Get yourself in that queue if you have something to say, if you have an anecdote, or if you have a gripe. If you didn't like the book, please tell me. Do not be afraid to not like a book. We get that all the time here. I love it, okay? I love it. Do not be afraid to tell me, hey, Patch, this was garbage, okay? I don't think that's going to happen. This is widely liked. Let's start with, we got Brittany 1 and Brittany 2 in the queue, but we'll go with Brittany 1 in the car.
That I'm not driving in, just to be
Thank
clear.
you
I'm
for
completely
clarifying.
parked.
No zooming.
Yes, yeah, I'm completely parked. So I loved this book. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. It made me very angry. I annotated a lot. There was a lot of fuck you comments throughout the whole book. Especially when it came to when they started mixing like religion with it. Because I don't think that your religion should have a standing on what you do as a doctor or anything like that. I used to be a pharmacy tech, and I've run into this where people disagree with like the medication that people use for abortions, or if you're miscarrying and it's not completing, there's a medication you can take. And I've had many pharmacists who refuse to dispense it and have made it very clear that they disagree with it. So I really don't like that, period. And then I really enjoyed all of the different stories that we got to hear. I liked that she put lots of different point of views from lots of different diseases, lots of different people, good, bad, whatever happened. I enjoyed that. Well, not enjoyed, but you know what I mean. And it made me really sad that Alzheimer's people do not get a chance to use the law, because I've had a grandmother who had Alzheimer's, and it's heartbreaking to watch people break down from that. So it didn't, that made me sad. But for the most part, I really, really enjoyed it. So yeah, this has been my favorite one that I've read so far.
Really?
Yes.
This has been the best one?
Well, I mean, I've only read like 5, so to be fair, I haven't read the backlog yet.
I love to hear that. I love when people say this has been the best one yet. Definitely agree. Definitely agree. Thank you for that input. I'm gonna keep it moving. Typically, I say some stuff afterwards, but since we have so many people, I'm just gonna keep it moving. But yes, agree to all that. Melissa, does that unmute you? Oh, I was about to say, I thought like you had this like cool Inspector Gadget thing going on where like once you put that down, it unmuted you. Oh, God,
Oh, okay, maybe now. It's supposed to unmute me when I put it down.
I love that. It didn't, but I love
Well,
that though. I can hear you now. Go ahead.
okay, good. So I'm Melissa. Hi. I did enjoy the book. I was a little sad. Like it kind of didn't make sense with me with Brittany said with the religion mixing in with it, and because I know I kind of worked in pharmacy too, and I know that for like birth control, a pharmacist doesn't have to fill it out, but they have to recommend, or yeah, they have to recommend another pharmacy that will do it. So I did find it really confusing how a doctor here doesn't have to recommend another doctor that will help them.
Right.
Doesn't make sense. And this whole time that I was reading through it, I was like, man, my dog has more rights about how to die than I do. Because Alzheimer's and dementia does run in my family, and my dad has expressed that like when he starts losing it, he actually told me, Melissa, when I start losing it, just take me into the woods and leave me there. And I'm like, oh my God. But with a law like this, he would definitely use it. But if he has Alzheimer's, he wouldn't be able. But this entire time I was thinking, I'm like, I could put my elderly dog down right now because he gets confused at night and a
Sure.
person needs to go through more hurdles, and we're supposed to have more rights than animals, and yet here we are treating animals with more of a respect for their death. And it's not frowned upon to put down an animal because it's suffering, but a human can't do it on their own accord because of someone else's beliefs. And I feel like it's I just feel like if it doesn't affect you, why do other people care? If obviously if you don't want it, don't use the law. If you believe it's against your religion, then don't use it, but not everyone is behind it. And that was just the most frustrating thing. But overall, I liked the book. It was really interesting to see different perspectives on why someone would want to use it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I talked with like I said, Anita Hammock a little bit about that too. There's a website. I think I listed it in the description of the podcast where it lists every state and kind of like what that looks like in every state. And places like Florida, you would be charged with manslaughter if you help somebody die like that, which I thought was absolutely nuts. Okay,
Yeah.
Brit number 2, standing in the kitchen. Hello, friend. What are we eating for dinner? I have questions for you after this, by the way, because I'm having.
Sorry, it was taking. Sorry, it took forever to unmute. I'm cooking some peach balsamic chicken, so
Oh,
hopefully it's
damn.
good. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. So I agree with a lot of what's been said so far, especially what Brit number one said. And I will just also add that I live in Alabama, so I am in a state in which this topic is not something that's like ever on our news because it is not offered anywhere close to here, as far as I know. So it's something I knew about, but reading this book really opened my eyes to like all the complexities of it. And I studied anthropology as an undergrad. I'm obsessed with this author and the way she immersed herself. I thought that was just so good. Like it went so far beyond just doing research. Like she really got into the nitty-gritty of it. Um, I cried a lot. I laughed at some of it. I got angry at a lot of it. Um, I really like the way that, I don't know, just the way that she really humanized everything. And even though this is a topic that a lot of people really shy away from, she painted it in a way that, like, I don't know, it's almost like beautiful in like a morbid way, that people can have this much control when, they are in situations where they obviously have access to it. The one thing that really surprised me that I didn't ever think about before reading this was her talking about how some people, based on their health scenario, there's some situations where it could almost be discriminatory. Like I had never thought about it like that. Like if you're not able to administer it on your own, even though you are of sound mind or something.
Right.
So that was just really eye-opening to me. But overall, honestly, I mean, I started reading books with the book club a couple months before I started joining in the meetings. This is probably like the eighth book I've read, ninth book. This is probably my favorite so far. Like it's a 5 out of 5 for me. I loved it.
Let's go. Let's go. I love that. I love to hear that. I actually really started, I have a serious interest for anthropology now. Like I'm starting to hoard books that I probably don't need about the subject. But I'm I'm curious. And her other books sound really interesting too. On the episode, she was like, I've written some stuff, but it's kind of academic and very niche. And I'm like, okay, that sounds fine. I'm so glad you loved it. Thank you so much. And I hope your chicken is good. It sounds delicious. Ursula.
Hey guys, nice to be here. I'm speaking from Brazil, so if my accent at some point get weird, you can
Oh,
tell
that's so
me.
welcome. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, I was very happy to find you in Instagram, and actually, this was the first book that I read on the book club, and it was a nice surprise for me because it wasn't the kind of book that I would normally have chose to read, and it was impressive how complex the stories are, especially for me. I'm a psychologist, so
Mm,
it was actually quite interesting to get to think about how thin the line between if it is quite ethical, is it correct? uh, uh, because here in Brazil we don't have this kind of laws, and
mm,
in any states is something that unthinkable for us. So it was very interesting, and basically I'm glad that I got to read it. Some stories was were better than others for me. I believe that the Louis one was
hmm.
one of that caught my attention. Um, but well, I think that basically sums up what my think what my thoughts were. But it was a great experience, and I'm excited to keep on reading the other book.
Well, thank you for being here. Is it the laws kind you said it was unthinkable. Is that like rooted in religion, do you think, in Brazil, or is there just like is that just kind of unheard of to do something like this?
I believe there is a part of it that is rooted in religion because here in Brazil, um, when we talk about the government and politics, is straight connected with religion, although it shouldn't be.
Yeah,
But there
sure.
is a lot of yes, there is a lot of discussion on the matter. For instance, here we are in a place that there is a lot of discussion for abortion.
Mm,
So it is also forbidden here, but there was a law that legalized it for cases of rape or for rape, people
mm.
who were raped. But now the government is trying to put it down. So yes,
Yeah,
it's a gray area here, and there is a lot of influence from religion, unfortunately.
yeah. Same. Same here, unfortunately. All right. Cool. Well, thank you so much for coming, Ursula. I really appreciate it. And I do hope you stick around. I hope everybody sticks around and continues reading the books. Let's move on to Angela. Hi, Angela. Welcome back. I'm gonna kill this gnat. It's flying right in front of me. Oh,
Okay,
there
sorry, I'm
you
on
are.
my phone instead of my computer, and it's like I'm a noob in this. I don't know how to do anything.
You're fine.
Um, this was a great book. This is right up there with the Black Angels for me. Um,
Oh,
yeah, I really enjoyed the narrative style of writing. Yeah, that one was pretty much the top for me so far since I joined.
I'm
Um,
chatting with her tomorrow for a bonus episode for the podcast.
ooh, okay, I'm in.
So excited.
Uh, um, I loved the narrative style. Immediately, I cried. That very first story, I was like, it just got me in the feels, and
Yep.
it happened a couple more times too. Um, and so I thought it was really powerful. This is something that where my opinion has changed over the course of my life because I don't know who all is old enough to remember Dr. Kevorkian, and he was pretty infamous. I wouldn't even say famous, infamous for helping people die, for assisting people with death, and it was like a humongous scandal back in the day. People were very divided in this country about it, and at the time, I would have called myself a religious person. And so I was horrified by that thought, because
Right.
when you grow up in a church, at least every church I've ever been to, you get told that you don't choose the time of your death, that God chooses that. And that if you choose for yourself, like you're going to HE double hockey sticks. So I don't participate in organized religion anymore. And I feel like my empathy meter has changed, if that makes sense. Like, I feel like people should have a lot of agency in what they choose to do. And I really appreciated all of these different perspectives, including the horror stories, like the ones where it did not work out the way it was expected. Was so powerful because she really did look at all sides of it. It wasn't like she was trying to sugarcoat it and be like, everything always turns out great.
Right.
And I really empathized with all of those people and how they felt. And like everybody else said, or like multiple other people said, it's disturbing all of the bureaucracy around it and the regulations that prevent some people who are really suffering from being able to access that right, even when they live in that state. One last thing I want to say is that I thought the part where they were talking about not wanting to change the law because it could affect other states getting the law if they made it too broad was like, I don't know, that blew my mind a little bit because I thought, oh, that's such a, like, what are we going to do? We're going to wait around for like Texas, which is where I live, to come around to this. Like, it's not going to happen.
It's not gonna happen.
It's not going to happen here. Because they want to control you in this state. So they're not going to let you have agency over your body. So it sucks for people in the states that do have that agency, that they still are so tightly regulated at accessing it, when like, this is mine. And what I do with it should be up to me. So really powerful book. I was at a quilt retreat and I had it out on my desk and people were stopping to talk to me about it. They were like, what's this about? This looks interesting. And it sparked some discussion. And I did find that the religious people were very firmly in the no camp, and the people who maybe were not were like, yeah, I think it's chill. You should be allowed to. So
Did you say a
that's
quilt retreat?
Quilt, yes. We get together and we quilt.
Where's Heather? Where's Heather at? She would love to attend that. Heather made some crazy cool quilts. I don't know if you've seen her pictures on the Discord. We do on the Discord, we do have like a arts and crafts section too, where people post their photos of quilts.
Yeah, I'm on the Discord, but I am approaching elderly, so I have to learn how to use it. You know what I mean?
Listen, Discord is confusing. I can't stress enough how confusing Discord is. Logan, before you start, is your dog in a shirt? Because I see a puppy behind you, and he looks like he's wearing a t-shirt.
He's wearing a surgery shirt. It's an
Oh
alternative
no!
tones. Yeah.
I
No,
had
but
to
he's
say
okay.
something.
He's and he loves it too. So I
Okay,
live in an
good.
apartment building, and every time we get into the elevator, people tell him how handsome he looks in his
He
jam.
does look very handsome, so
Oh, did you hear that?
very handsome.
I
Yes,
will forever advocate for dogs and clothing because my Boston Terrier has been all winter. It's fine. We have matching ones. It's okay.
I have to get him more clothing because he's feeling himself in this.
Oh,
But I'm Logan. Hi. I'm sorry if he or my other dogs start barking. They're both hound dogs, and
good.
they will. I'll mute myself if they do, and you can just move on. But I just found you guys 10 days ago, and I didn't start reading this book until about a week ago. So I'm only about 50% through. Initially, I was thinking like, thank you. I was thinking maybe I'll start with next month's book because it's a subject that I'm more familiar with, and that's kind of more like up my alleyway as far as like topics that I sought out. But like, I'm so glad that I didn't wait because this book was incredible. It was not. I have never heard of like assisted dying outside of Kevorkian, like Angela was talking about. And like Brit number two, I was also an anthropology major.
I'm sorry to have started that.
No, I'm sorry, Brit number two and Brit number one. But I, like Brit number two, also cried a lot throughout the part of this book that I have read. And the way that she wrote it as kind of along the same veins as like an ethnography was really familiar to me. So to me, at least, this was like a really good introductory book to the book club. This is a subject I would have never thought about or sought out. So thank you so much for picking it. And then the point that I really wanted to bring across just share with the group is like, it brought me back to when my grandfather passed away. He had stage 4 everything cancer. And I just remember watching him waste away. And he was a deeply Catholic man his entire life. And I think that if this had been available to him in Florida at the time, he would have sought it out just based off of stories that, things that I heard him say at the time and stories that my grandmother has told since then about, things that he said or maybe did. Like, it's wild to me. I understand how people hold religion very deeply to themselves and their own personal beliefs, but those beliefs change over time. You can fall in or out of the church, regardless of what's happening in your life. So I just think that's something important to keep in mind as well. But yeah, thank you again.
Yeah, thanks for coming. I'm glad you found us. Bird. Hello, Bird. Welcome back, babes.
Thank you. So I apologize if I ramble, because I loved this book so much and I have a lot of things that I want to say, but I don't want to like rehash anything. I listened to this as an audiobook. I have kind of a long commute in the morning and in the afternoon coming home. So this was an interesting book to listen to because I don't know if it's just the way that I kind of process information while I'm listening to it, especially while driving, but right. I remember a few times where I was listening, I was hearing, but not really listening, if that makes sense. And I would like rewind. And a few of those times in any other book, it probably wouldn't have been such a big deal. But in this book, when there were so many stories that were like, that made such an impression on me, there were a few times where I actually had to pull over and just kind of park and get through the story that she was telling because it was so impactful to me. Someone I think mentioned the first story. That one was one of the things too that I loved about this book was a lot when people hear assisted dying, they immediately kind of conjure this image of sadness and trauma and suffering, and yeah, a lot of times that is the case, but I was so happy to kind of see how much joy that there was in a lot of those instances where the stars aligned and the law worked for people, that it it didn't always work for everyone, but
right,
like that I think is the beauty of the bodily autonomy that comes with medically assisted death. And I was so happy that she could have just focused on the struggles and the challenges that we have in this country where medically assisted death is concerned, but it really was so special to me to be able to see that, because and I've mentioned this in other meetings, I come from a very religious family. And I actually work in the medical field, and I have family members who work in the medical field. And while we are a religious family, we are 100% on board with bodily autonomy. So I would have discussions about this book as I was, listening to it with my family, and they would get like incited too, and I think why it was kind of, I'll say this. It hasn't been my favorite book. My favorite book that we've read was All the Living and the Dead.
Yep.
It was just such a transformative book for me. Fantastic. But this was probably like right alongside it, if not sharing the #1 spot. And it was special because I got to like involve my loved ones with that discussion too. But it was also kind of like a double-edged sword, because sometimes I would catch myself really thinking deeply about death and about like making those plans and going through those experiences with my loved ones. So that was probably the harder part of this book for me to read, for sure. The other thing that made probably the biggest impact on me was the story. I think his name was Joe. He was
the ALS.
Yes. When I was listening to her tell that part of the story, it was just one of those moments where I was like, I'm never going to forget this. Like, there are books that I could read and love, and, you know, in a week, I don't really ever think about them again. But that story will probably stick with me for the rest of my life. And it was interesting too, because I caught myself like Googling like hospice volunteer opportunities, and like,
wow.
inspired me to try to do more, because there's just so many people who are affected. And for background context, I live in Texas, so there's always something I feel like that we're fighting. I think that probably goes for anyone living in the US. There's always something to be mad about, but you know, everything's bigger in Texas. The problems are bigger here too. And so anyway, I know I'm rambling, but right now my mom is actually my mom is in the hospital, and I am at home just for a couple hours to check on the animals. And I told her that we have our book club meeting tonight. And I was, you know, kind of on the fence about going because I didn't want to leave her. And she was like, no, you need to go because I want to know what everyone says and how they liked the book. So yeah, this book, amazing. I gave it a 5 out of 5 as well. I actually, because I think I bought the audiobook because it was just one of those things where I wanted to be able to listen to it while I was driving, but I also, maybe it was more affordable at the time. I want to go back and buy the physical book as well, because I want that on my shelf. Like, that's how much I loved it.
Yeah, it's a good one. I got goosebumps talking about volunteering at hospice.
Yeah.
I'm sure Anita Hannig would love to hear that too. She would absolutely find joy in that.
Well, my grandmother passed away a few years back, and I think if we had had the option, I caught myself thinking, if she had had the option for a medically assisted death, I think she would have taken it too, because she was so different by the time that, you know, she was in hospice. And by the time she did pass away, she was just so different from who she had been in life that it made me sad that she didn't have that option. So I am very thankful that we did this book, because it opened so many different doors and conversations that I wasn't even aware of.
Yeah. So. Love that. Love that. Love that. And I hope your mom's doing okay.
Well, you know, it's one of those things where it's just like, she was in on Thursday night and she may not go home until Tuesday. And you know, it's up and down, but she has people advocating for her. So that's the most important thing.
Good. We're all thinking about it for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nancy, I need you to fill us in on the lights behind you, because it is so cool looking in there.
I'm up in the corner of our little cabin in my loft. And so I sit up
cool
here.
As hell.
Yeah, okay. I sit up here and turn on I think those are called like Aurora Borealis lights.
Yeah, I like them.
So
moody.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, I'm Nancy. This is my first month in the club and first book. So, and I'm already looking ahead and bought several books for the rest of the year.
I'm sorry about your wallets, friends. But also, I'm excited for you to be here. So I'm really
yes, you're killing our wallets. But as a couple people have said, one of the first things I thought of, I'm a little bit older, was Kevorkian. Because I remember that when he was, you know, traveling around doing that, and made me think back to it. And, you know, when he was doing what he was doing, I admired him too. Because that took a lot of guts. It was even less talked about back in the 80s. This wasn't anything you talked about at all. At least now there's this book. And Kevorkian, I just saw a movie not too long ago called I Think You Don't Know Jack, with Al Pacino in it. So that follows him and his reasons for doing what he did. And, you know, I don't know the timeline for him and his location, and then these laws that Anita was talking about in Oregon and in California. I live in Kentucky, so also kind of Southern, quite conservative. And you know, I'm mid-50s, so it makes me start thinking about, because any of us could be in a situation like this.
Right.
You know, would you want to be Joe or any of those folks with that ALS? ALS is a horrific disease. You know, wouldn't you want to be able to make your own decision about that? It seems like a lot of people would.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of is sad that so few people have the option to even think about that, unless you're going to do something under the table, which who knows how often that happens.
Probably a lot.
Yeah, probably a lot. Probably a lot. So I really I enjoyed the book a lot too. I'm gonna see maybe if I can get my husband to read it. Um, that's really all I had to say, but thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming. Please continue to come. Yeah, there's definitely been a couple book club books that I want my fiance to read, but I basically am asking for a kidney. So hopefully one day Christopher will pick up something. Oh, that would be awesome. But yeah, some people were saying in our chat as well that they were surprised Kevorkian wasn't mentioned at all in this book, but maybe it would have been a little out of I don't know, maybe it would have fit in. She would have found a way to write it in there, but yeah, that is interesting. That was very interesting. And yes, Ashley says she's always looking for deals for us. Also on the Discord, we do have a deals and sales part, and people will always let you know if a book club book is on sale. I know A Light in the Dark, our July book, is like $2 on Kindle right now if you're a Kindle reader. And then the couple of the books next year are like $7 on hard cover. So, and yes, shout out to Libby, of course. Support your libraries. Alex.
Hello, hello, everyone.
I was about to say, is that Alex? Alex? Hi, Alex.
I loved the book. Basically what everyone else said. I will say that I listened to the podcast today though. And I always love listening to it, especially before our talks, because I love listening to what the author has to say. And
Right.
your guys' conversation was just so good. I'm gonna probably go back and listen to it again.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
great. She
yeah.
was awesome.
Yeah, she sounds so smart. Like, I just
Yeah.
want to like sit and like pick her brain and just have a conversation with her.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but
It
I
was
know a lot of
I
the
highly
people in
suggest it.
the Discord and stuff said that they were like opting out of this book or they didn't read this book this month. And that's really the first time that we've had that. And I feel like because this topic hits so close to home for a lot of us, like especially listening to everyone speak just now, we all have a loved one, I think that passed away and like maybe was sick. Like I know a couple people mentioned grandparents and Alzheimer's. My grandmother passed away. She had dementia a couple years ago. She passed away. And it's just awful to see your family decline like that. And I remember, I know it's harder like on my mom because it's her
Mhm.
mom.
Yeah.
But my grandmother was a nurse, and nurses are always like, sorry, but any nurses out there, the worst patients, right? So
Yeah.
she would always say, like, before she got sick, like, she didn't want to be like that. And I remember her saying stuff like that. And then to watch her deteriorate, so excuse me, deteriorate, like, my mom's buying her like kids' toys and going to feed her every day after work. And I'm like,
Mm.
trying to be like sensitive. I'm like, Mom, like that's not grandma anymore. Like
Yeah.
she's, like I kind of made my peace with it before she passed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I know that she would have 100% wanted to do this.
Right.
And even my mom today says, like, I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be like that. Like after taking care of her mom, she's like, I don't want you guys, like me and my sister, to have to do that with my mom. And so like I understand, like, it it's tough because I understand both sides of the argument too, where like you want some like your people wherever it's legal. Like I'm in Florida, so like every book we read, it's like Florida is like we just bad talk Florida. Um, so I understand like someone of being like of sound mind and being able to
Sure.
do it themselves, but at the same time, like if you're able to do it yourself, wouldn't you want to live until you're like live out your life to the fullest until you're not able to anymore?
Mm-hmm.
So then, and then people, ALS, like if you're not physically able to do it, but you're of sound mind, like then what?
Right.
So like I understand, and there there are bad people in the world. And I do like I hate to say that, but
Mm-hmm.
whether it's law enforcement or doctors, like you hear about it. These people in these professions that are supposed to be protecting us
Sure.
and they do bad things. So like could this get into the hands of somebody that should not be administering this? And like, you know what I mean? So like I do see both sides of it. but I I do think it should be up to the person that's suffering. And then I listened to this on Audible. I really wish that I would have bought the book. I probably will because I'll read it again. Because I would have annotated the crap out of this book. But something that I wrote down, and I forget who said it, Lois Anderson maybe, that no human life should end prematurely, no matter the circumstance. And then I'm just kind of like, I think about pro-life, like,
Yeah.
like we're all going through this right now. And like, so I'm like on both ends of it now,
Yeah.
It's just, and
Yeah,
then,
bodily autonomy is a huge topic with this, for sure.
oh my goodness. Yeah. And then one more thing, I won't ramble too long. I know a lot of people want to speak. Um, Somebody was saying, like a physician was talking about, like he doesn't want to do harm, like he took an oath, like a sworn oath not to do harm to anybody. And then he brings up his religion and I'm like, here we go. Like like this, I don't think that religion, everybody's entitled to their religion, to their beliefs, their faith, but
Yeah.
I just don't agree with you projecting that onto somebody else, especially in healthcare and especially with, someone making their own choices. And it's just, I have a lot of opinions on that, but that's like a whole nother conversation.
I just wanted to add, Alex, to your comment about doing no harm. I don't understand how there are some practitioners, there are some people out there who don't think that prolonging life isn't harmful.
Yeah.
Because it can be excruciating.
Very true. That's what some people, I was about to say, that's what some people are saying in the chat too. Like, isn't this harmful to cause somebody to continuously, go
There
on
isn't
like
one
this?
more quote and then I'll stop.
No, you're fine.
There is virtue in enduring suffering in the end of life. Like whoever said that is not dying and is not in pain. I think that's coming from the Catholics, which I was raised Catholic.
Absolutely.
From the Catholics.
So
No, it was something I brought up to her too, because, it's a similar situation when it comes to bodily autonomy, and not to bring too much of the abortion topic into it, but I don't think anybody at the end of the day sits here and says, I want to partake in this. I want, like, no one on their deathbed wants to say, it's just, it's tricky to put it into perspective, of course, because none of us are in this situation currently. But nobody wants to die. Like, I mean, especially if you were completely fine and then suddenly ALS is, taking over your body. Like, nobody wants that. Nobody wants to have to choose to do this. Like, it's hard to say too. Like, do you think if you were in this place? Anyway, no, I don't want to go off on a tangent here, but yeah, I agree, completely agree. Joanna, how's our Hank boy?
Oh, he's snoozing in the bedroom with his sister Nora. How's your Hank boy?
Hank is good. Hank had some bladder stones. That was an expensive vet trip.
God, it's really scary when you go down and find a huge puddle of blood beside the litter box.
Yeah. Or he actually wasn't peeing at all. So he was about to go into complete kidney shutdown if we didn't do something about it. So he's good now, but damn it, was that expensive. Anything for my children, though.
I used to live in Raleigh. I grew up in Virginia. And I came to Seattle on vacation, and I'm straight, but I saw all these gay people walking down the street holding hands like it was nothing. And I thought, man, I'm moving to this place. I love all these liberal people. This is amazing. And then, of course, in 2008, I voted for the assisted dying thing. But reading this, I had no idea how difficult it was to actually get approval and go through all of it. I saw the movie How to Die in Oregon and definitely agree with people who are saying you should see that.
Yeah.
But I still didn't know how difficult it all was. And this book was, I'm bouncing around. This book was so beautiful and so painful. I could not believe how horrible poor Lewis's experience was, where he tried to die and then he woke up and he's not dead.
Ugh.
I have another thing that is completely separate, and this is very disturbing. I have a really good friend who's 95, and she lives across the country from me, and we've been friends for 40 some years, and we've been emailing, and she said she was in really awful pain.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a call from her daughter, voicemail, and I called back. I said, "Is this the call that I've been dreading?" And she said, "Yeah." And I'd been talking to my friend, like, boy, if I'm like that, I'm going to commit suicide.
Mm-hmm.
And my friend's daughter said, "Well, she committed suicide." And I blurted out, "Good for her." Because, I mean, my God, she's 95. She's in agonizing pain. There's absolutely nothing the medical establishment can do to help. And of course, she was horrified that I blurted that out. And so I had to backtrack and say, "I'm sorry, but she was really over a barrel. She didn't have any choices." And I said, "So what happened?" And she said, "She got a gun and blew her head off."
Wow.
That I learned about that 2 weeks ago, and it has been in my mind constantly.
I would assume it would be.
This lady, my friend, she was the most delicate, gracious person. I mean, she's the absolute last person in the world I could imagine getting a gun. And she got the gun in April, so she obviously knew she was going to do it. So reading all this book, I was just so upset that this was an option that she didn't have. And her family is horrified because her son walked in and found her.
Mm.
So
when it could have been like this peaceful ritual where, everybody's together
And to piggyback off that, I was definitely thinking about like, well, which is better? Someone, because people, if they want to do something, they're gonna find a way to do it.
Sure.
So I was thinking this entire time, like what she was saying, like, is it better that they kill themselves in a horrific manner with a gun or a desperate manner because of how much that they're at some point their quality of life goes down and they decide I don't want to be here anymore. Like a lot of people just focus on the quantity, and at some point you're just gonna go, which is better, and like helping them get a safer route or just letting them explode and grab the nearest gun or something.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Anything else, Joanna?
No,
okay.
I'm just so upset. I just can't believe she did this.
I know. I'm very sorry about that.
Thank you. I love your book club, and I really like your newish hairdo and color and stuff. So that's all.
Well, we always appreciate you coming around. Thank you for being here, and I hope the book, assisted you through this process, I guess, and showed that
It was tough. I almost had to quit reading in the beginning because it was so hard, but it worked out really well for me to go ahead and finish it. So
good. I'm glad to hear that. I'm very glad to hear that. I do love the people in the Discord were talking about the beginning, and Ken's chapter was very hard to get through, and some people were like more upset that Fluffy, the dog, was sitting next to Ken. And they were like, "Oh my God, please tell me something good happened with Fluffy." Fluffy got adopted. We're good, everybody.
And the lady who she was not clear, and she was in her car with the 2 dogs and 2 cats. I wanted to find out what happened to the dogs and the cats.
I know. That's why I appreciated from Susan Ashline and Without a Prayer. She gave us an update on the cats and the dogs that are at the Leonard home. And I told her in the podcast episode, I was like, thank you for that update. I really wanted to hear that. Michelle.
Good evening, everybody. We have dogs, so if they start woofing, I will mute myself. Just a couple of thoughts about the book. I really love this book. And I think with my grandmother being 97 and she's still toddling around, she lives with my mother. But she is very like, we try to keep her in a bubble and keep, try to prevent all that stuff from happening. But just watching her slowly but surely decline, book, really hit there. I did like the fact that she referenced a couple of times in the book Atul Gawande's book Being Mortal. I read that in another book club. And again, neither one of these books would have been books I would have just said, I want to read that. But they both hit home for me. Like he talks about him being mortal, how doctors, make it horrible for people as they're trying to uphold their Hippocratic oath of keeping you alive no matter what. Yeah. And that got me thinking as I'm getting older about how I want to go. Sure. So anyway, I found that to be very interesting, and I appreciated the fact that something that I read in the past was referenced. And then I also liked this one quote, and then I'll stop. But an assisted death often resulted in less complicated grief as well. Because having had family members who died suddenly, you're not ready. But if you know it's coming, it kind of helps you get in that headspace of, oh, okay, it's going to happen. Let's go ahead and say our goodbyes. Let's do all that stuff. So,
yeah, absolutely. That's what I mean. Like the good death where people can like come by and like, treat it as something, different, than a different outlook than this, I hate to use the word morbid, of course we love that word around here, but a morbid type of death where you think like this horrible thing is happening. But yeah.
Well, and the cultural thing where we in the United States don't like to talk about death because we're doing everything in our power to prevent death, like you can actually prevent it. I mean, you really can't.
Yeah.
But we don't talk about it. It's one of those hush hush things that nobody likes to discuss. And
right.
I think we need to have those conversations with our family members.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a great conversation to have. We don't like to think about the times without our loved ones, but it's also an important conversation because people don't know their wishes. We don't know what people want. We don't know what kind of funeral they want. They could want something completely, we want to respect them. Absolutely.
Exactly. Thanks a lot, y'all.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for coming. All right, let me get my mouse here. Jason. Am I saying it right?
Yes, Jason.
Yes. Hi, welcome.
Hey, it's actually my first time coming to a meeting, so yeah, I'm excited to be here with y'all. I really loved how the book, like she was just saying, the book talked about death in a way that was beautiful and not in a way that was taboo, because it is a reality we can't get away from. And it's something that we never expect to be facing. And it could be just as sudden as today or many, many years down the line for either ourselves or anybody in our lives. And it's something we should be comfortable with discussing and talking with our families and our loved ones about, and not in a way of like a morbid impending doom, but just kind of knowing that this is part of the cycle of life and something we can't get away from. And I had an interesting time reading the book because I am disabled. I have like a laundry list of disabilities all connected. I use a wheelchair and everything like that. And I had an accident last year, and so I have a traumatic brain injury. I don't remember 3 months of last year. I couldn't walk or talk. I had to relearn how to read, write, walk, talk.
Really?
And I was very combative, and I didn't recognize my roommate. I didn't know where I was. I would try and like rip IVs out of my arm. Like I didn't understand. And I lost all autonomy. And even now, I still have, like, I've recovered, obviously, I'm here in this meeting with y'all. But like, I even still struggle with my own autonomy, as simple as like sometimes heating up food is really difficult for me. But I have days where I'm perfectly fine and I can like walk around and like do art or whatever. And so something like this is almost a safeguard for disability. Like it sounds like, oh, you're just trying to kill off disabled people, but it's more of like giving me and people like me who, like the opportunity. Like I'm nowhere near death. I'm not considering the law, but most of my friends are also disabled as well. And we've had to confront this because I've had times where we've not believed I was going to make it out of it. And I've had many friends in the same kind of boat. And one part in the book was saying that allowing it for terminal illness is what the way say discriminating towards people with disability. And I would argue that getting a terminal illness could mean you are disabled because it takes away different functions of your living. Now there's like levels to it and like different layers and things like that, but it's meant to be inclusive, not exclusive in a way, just to be able to like help people. And like we've seen and we've heard, people will be resorted to like a more drastic measures if they don't have things like this in place. And that's more harmful to the family and that's more traumatic rather than embracing like what is going to be the end of someone's life because it's going to happen whether we want to or not. And sorry, going very fast.
No,
Part
you're
of
fine.
I had to like write down notes because again, like TBI, I can't maintain like memory for very long, so I have to like constantly like write notes and everything down.
Totally
Um,
fine.
but like rather than like punishing everyone who, because it is dangerous to be putting something like this in the hands of people who would misuse it, but our responsibility isn't to punish those who need it because there's a chance that someone might misuse it. It's give the people who don't have autonomy the power and the autonomy they need and find ways to protect them against people who would misuse it, not denying them that autonomy in the first place. It's like kind of making the choice for them because you're worried someone's going to use it against them. And that's not ethical either because you're, again, making that choice for them. And that's something, again, like I struggled with in my own disability, not to this extent, but there are people who were making medical choices for me because they assumed they knew better than I did, or they were worried someone else would do something. And I got to a point where I was like, this isn't something I agreed to or would have agreed to. And you took advantage of the
100%.
fact that I didn't have autonomy, and you decided that you would rather take away my autonomy to protect me rather than give me the choice and find a way to help me through that process. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I just, um, sorry, I lost my train of thought. It's still
You're
hard.
fine. No, you're totally fine. What everything you're saying, you're getting, I don't know if you could see chat, but you're getting a lot of responses that are
I
saying
will check
yes,
in a
yes, yes.
second.
Absolutely,
And
absolutely.
I'm also trans. And so I also struggle a lot with bodily autonomy and that whole discussion and things like that. And I understand it's not something everyone agrees with. But for me, even having like a long history of really difficult medical issues with needing a hysterectomy, for example, not just for gender affirming surgery, but because it's really impacted my health and is actually medically unsafe for me to ever have a kid and things like that. But because of bodily autonomy laws, people are trying to protect me or people like me or trying to make these choices for me without knowing my situation and that this is now harmful for me.
And
And
you hit it
in
on the
good
head
news,
by saying, not their situation. This is you. Like, this is my life. Can I please make decisions for myself, please?
yeah, and like I understand having a different perspective and point of view. But again, like there's so many nuances that like I've had a lot of medical mistreatment from doctors who assumed because of their not even religious beliefs, sometimes it's just traditional beliefs.
Sure.
Because of their traditional beliefs, it's harmed me medically. But in a bodily autonomy excited note, I'm actually getting my hysterectomy on Tuesday. Really excited about that. It's
Good for
taken many
you.
years.
Good
Congratulations.
for you.
I'm
Well,
really excited and nervous.
I don't know if you're in the Discord, but I actually, that's what the surgery I had in May. And there's been a
Really?
couple, yeah, it's my uterus is actually sitting on a jar right here. If anybody's curious, there's a picture of that in the Discord too. If anybody's curious, it's disgusting looking. But yeah, there's been a couple people who have gone through that. So if you want to go in the hop in the Discord, we can totally give you tips. Because
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm like 8 weeks out and I'm still having, the fatigue is terrible. I'm having
Oh
really
my God.
random
I'm
sharp
already so
pains.
tired with the other disabilities. I'm like, oh God.
So
Oh God.
we got you. Trust me. There's been a handful of people who've gone through that. So definitely, if the Discord's in the chat, but if you want to hop on and
Yeah.
talk about it, we would love to help you through that. So congratulations, though. That's so exciting.
Thanks.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
love that.
So not to hog and just to wrap up, I
Oh no,
think
you're fine.
it's so important that people are able to make choices for themselves, even if it means religiously they don't follow through with helping with an assisted death. But I also believe that things happen. I wasn't expecting to get in my accident. I wasn't expecting to be as disabled as I am at 29 years old. Like, I'm young. I have doctors looking at me like I'm crazy for using a wheelchair. Um, and no one expects any of this.
Mhm.
I'm so sorry. I just saw Joanna put, please show us your uterus. And that was the only part of the message that I saw. So sorry.
I will totally get it off the chat.
Oh.
Won't show Instagram because I'll get banned. It's not very discernible. Go ahead, keep talking. I'll grab it.
But yeah, as someone who has even briefly lost such a sense of autonomy, and I'm still fighting every day to get it back, I think people not take advantage of, what is the word I'm looking for? The one where they don't appreciate.
Mm.
God,
I know what you're trying to say though. I can't think of the word either, but I know what you're trying to say.
Yeah, where they like don't like understand the privilege that they have to have autonomy until it's taken away from them. And so they project that onto people who are now in these dire situations and needing these people who do have that kind of withdrawal. And they don't understand from a personal perspective what it's like to go through that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's just important for bodily autonomy.
Absolutely.
Take it for granted. Oh my God. Thank you so much, Rachel. Thank you so much. All right, I'm done now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jason. So I put the two pieces together that are the most discernible. It's in like a little pickle jar, but there she is.
Do I need to ask him to give me my uterus now?
Oh,
Like,
ask them. Yeah. So just tell them, hey, like I would like to keep it. And, I fortunately was at a very great hospital, great doctors who did say, like, yeah, that's not the first time that somebody's asked. So I had to sign off on it, assure people that I knew what I was doing with it. Loosely.
Okay.
Should name your uterus. It has a name. I can't say that on
I've named mine Helen. Because she's been hell.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, mine had a couple cuss words in it that that I cannot say. She was sitting in formalin, and now she is in just isopropyl alcohol, which I'm gonna have to change out because it's already getting a little murky. But yeah, that's her. That is her.
I'm really jealous that you had the quote unquote balls to ask for your uterus, because I didn't ask for my fallopian tubes and I freaking should have, because I'm so sad I didn't know.
The doctor was like not shocked at all that I asked, but also I'm not the first person to ask. She was like, okay, your surgery's coming up on this date. Do you have any questions? Like, what's it? And I said, can I keep it?
Honestly, I have like spooky shit all around my room because I like it. It would just add to the vibe.
She's sitting on all the books.
You made it, so you should be able to keep it. Yeah.
If you go to the Discord, we give links for like really cool display jars and stuff too. So if you want to display it, Etsy is where you go.
And this is a stretch that's gonna irritate some people, but they actually do pull it out. So technically, I birthed it. It's mine. Okay, I want it in a jar.
Joanna's face during that part.
Hey, listen, it's mine. I grew it myself. It's sitting on all my books about women not wanting children.
It's homegrown.
Yeah. DIY. All right. There's a really weird sharp pain there right now.
Dare I say, is it vegan as well?
Depends on who you ask. Depends on who you ask. I'm so sorry. We'll get back on track. I'm gonna mispronounce your name. I'm so sorry. Is it Belen? Kind of like Helen, but with a B, or is it?
Hi. No, it's Belen.
I was about to say, it's probably gonna sound much better than that. Okay, thanks. So sorry.
Yeah. Hi. I'm
Hi,
very
welcome.
excited to be here. I'm Belen. I'm from Mexico. This is like my first book club ever. So
Welcome. And Alice is also from she was over there waving at you. Alice is also in Mexico.
hola. Hi. So I we're gonna lower my hand. I was very angry at this book at first. I love it. Just to say that.
No,
I
angry's good.
love it.
Angry's good.
Because well, I'm a veterinarian here in Mexico, and when you guys started talking about like animal rights and the fact that we have more agency on our animals' lives in terms of euthanasia and helping them get out of this painful situations and agonizing deaths, it made me, well, very irritated about the fact that here in Mexico, we don't have any laws. At least you have like this Oregon Act, but here in Mexico, we don't have like any legislation on assisted death or euthanasia or anything like that. I think it's because it's related to this deep religious beliefs, but also this tradition. And it made me think because it's really it's like a paradox because we like to talk about death a lot. We have Dia de los Muertos here, Dia de Muertos, Day of the Dead, and it seems like to the world we are very open about this part of our culture and talking about death and talking about our history with death, but at the same time we are very traditional with this. And this whole thing about animals having the right to be euthanized when they have to made me think about how ironic it is because my boss, who was my mentor and my teacher at the clinic where I worked, she had lupus and she had a very, very, very excruciating death. And I was thinking like she helped so many animals to have a good death and she couldn't have one. It was very painful. So it made me think about that. And I don't know, I really like the book. It's really well written. For a nonfiction book, I think it's very light in terms of how it's written, not about the topic, but it's very fluent. You can read it easily. You can read it at any moment that you have. So I really like those kind of nonfiction books that it's not like really dense.
Yeah.
But it's hard to read it because, well, I went through this experience with her. She was my mentor and she suffered like a lot. Because of the lupus, she started having arthritis and her kidneys shut down. And she was like in all these processes. And doctors were like that, like you just said, they were trying to prolong this life and this. I know they weren't doing from this point of prolonging her suffering, but it did. Yes. So I don't know, I really like the book. It also started some conversations with the people I work with.
Oh, good.
Yes, and my girlfriend is a sociology major, so we talk about that, and we're always so pro-choice about everything in terms of bodily autonomy. And I think, as you already said, not only in terms of abortion, but also in terms of deciding how I want to go.
Yeah.
I didn't decide that I was gonna be here in this world, how I was gonna get birth or anything, but I can decide how I'm gonna go, or I should be able to decide.
Absolutely. Having the choice is the most important thing.
Absolutely. So yeah, thank you. Thank you for this book.
Yes, of course. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it. Heather, I see your hand. This gnat, though, is driving me nuts. And I have a little light thing over here that helps trap it. Also, yes, Stop Saying Ted Bundy Was Hot. New merch just released just in time for our July book. I think Rachel put it in the chat there. Let me grab this little light thing. Oh, it has to plug in. Damn it. Hey, Nat, go over that way then. We just installed this little light fixture that's supposed to kill all the gnats. It's like one of those little lights. Because I don't think I'll be able to smack it. Anyway, also I did see on live somebody asked for recommendations on books about women not wanting children. I will make a video about that because I got a pretty good stack. Unfortunately, I haven't read them all, but pretty good stack of books. So I will definitely put that together. Heather.
I'm sorry. I missed the quote call out, but I'm here.
I was dealing with my neighbors, but yes.
Oh, Angela was, I think it was, her name was Angela. Yeah, Angela was talking about a quilt like gathering
retreat. I want to go so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's got to see your work.
I need to get into that.
Yeah.
I absolutely love this book for a million reasons that I could be here all night with you guys, but it's just so, the conversation is so important that it makes me happy that everyone got to come together and kind of, we're all thinking around this incredibly important, subject. So my stepdad was diagnosed with cancer, and they gave him 6 months. He ended up living 7 years, but the last 3 years he suffered. Just it spread through his bones. He couldn't move, like he couldn't do anything. And he sat us all down and explained that he was going to start hoarding his medicine so he could make that decision for himself. He was going to take us in the late 90s, early 2000s. So like there was no options for him. But as a family, we all rallied around the fact that he was going to make the choice to do that for himself, making that decision. So I just wish he had this option, because it would have completely changed the way that he ended up passing.
Yeah.
So it's just so important. And I was talking to people like at the post office yesterday. I was like, let me tell you about this book. So that was kind of awkward, but it's you have to see it from everyone's perspective. And with the religious part coming in, it makes it like, are you looking at it for yourself? Are you looking at it for someone else? Or are you just looking at it through a very, fine microscope? So that's it. I just loved it. And
I know you said you loved this book, so I'm very, I think I told Anita about you. I was like, Heather said this is like one of the best books she's ever read.
Yeah, it is so important. It's just the conversation is really important. Even if you don't believe that you would ever do it for yourself, but for someone that you watch suffer, like we watched my stepdad suffer for 3 years, and he was finally ready to end it, and I had to respect that. So it always kind of rang true in my mind that everyone kind of deserves to have at least the agency to think that they can make a decision for themselves. So
yeah,
but we need to. It's important. So
absolutely. Well, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it. You did so good. You spoke. I love it.
I missed the quilt call out there. I'm like, yes, quilting.
Yeah. I was like, where's Heather? She should be in here.
I know. So, all right.
I love it. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, cool. Let's rearrange here. All right, Becca. Becca K. Ouch. You're on mute, darling. If you're trying to talk, you're on mute still. You there? Oh, there
yeah, sorry. I'm like, I'm on my phone and I only really use this for work. So I'm also, trying to figure out and going through Windows. Anyway, so this is also my first book. And in fact, I also listened to the audiobook because I was driving back from Colorado from vacation and had my niece from my extremely conservative family. So I'm from Nebraska, super red state, very conservative, grew up Catholic. On paper, I guess I still am, even though we don't adhere to those beliefs. I'm a single parent with 2 daughters, so bodily autonomy is huge to us.
Yeah.
And I teach them, they've grown up in a house that's very pro LGBTQ, very pro life, because, to me, it's important that people have their own, they get to make their own choices, and I don't get to tell people what they get to do. What kind of, and even from the book, because like the vast majority of hospitals in Nebraska are CHI, Catholic Health Initiative. So, it's some of the challenges that I saw in the book we would have here. But one of the things that I was thinking was, so my grandma, and I'm actually going to try to maybe turn on my camera if I can get it to work. Maybe. Maybe not. I don't know. My phone. Like I said, I do this on my computer all the time.
I was about to say, phone can be kind of complicated. Sorry. Oh no, I think you muted yourself instead of hitting the camera. I'm so sorry.
I did. That's me. I was trying to show you guys my kitten because I think everybody needs a little bit of a serotonin boost right now, but I can't get my camera to work.
Yes, Kitty, we want
If
to
I
see
can
you.
figure it out, I'll try to get him on here. But my grandma died or she had a stroke, probably about 2008 or 2009. And she was in a Catholic hospital because that's pretty much all we have here. I live in Lincoln, Nebraska, which we have one that's non-CHI, but then everything else, especially in rural communities, in Beckley and Omaha, which is our largest city in the state, is all CHI. And so she ended up, because I think she was 83, and they ended up going through with hospice care, where then they just withhold food and water, and they just ultimately let her pass. And the thing that I like to think, or not like to think about, but the thing that that made me think was, that's not for her. She is not aware of what's going on. She was, on heavy pain medication. She was essentially in a coma. So it really was just for the family. It didn't serve any purpose to her. It was just so people could watch her die. And I say that because even though, I have aunts and uncles, like one's in Minnesota, the rest of her kids are all within an hour. So they all got to say goodbye the day. And I remember I lived in Texas at the time, and I came back shortly after. And I still remember when I got to the hospital and holding her hand and her opening her eyes and realizing that I was there, knowing that I didn't live in Nebraska anymore. And it was like she just started to cry, because I think, for her, the realization had set in that this was the end. But so they talk about that, and I know, like I said, I was raised Catholic, so I think from that perspective, I don't want to say that I have empathy for that opinion, but because I was raised with it, and dare I say indoctrinated with it, I understand the point of view, even if I don't agree with it.
Sure.
But to me, it's, what is the difference at that point? If you're withholding water and you're withholding food, you're still making a choice. So it's a very fine line between those two things. And in the end, it really was not for my grandma to extend her life out for those additional 3 weeks or so, which is all it was. So
you're hitting the nail on the head, though. It's a choice.
Now I'm going to see if I can get my video to work so you guys can see the kitten.
Yeah, we need that. I need that. I love cats. I have 8 of them. I love babies. While you're figuring that out, I'm gonna keep your hand up. So once it works, we could see it. Go ahead, Brittany. Dare I say, Brit number 3. I'm gonna kill this gnat, dude.
Hi. So, yeah, it's my first time being in the book club, found on Instagram, and I was like, yes, there's other morbid people like me, and I was so excited. I remember watching the How to Die in Oregon movie years ago, and yeah, I was surprised that there was no mention of Dr. Kevorkian either, but yeah, just being in healthcare myself, and getting ready to finish my nursing degree, and working in the hospital, the spike of COVID, it's I've seen a lot of suffering and people not being able to advocate for themselves, and it is wild when you think next month will be 1 year since I've had to put my dog to sleep, and that was a really hard decision, but it was just because her quality of life was gone and for how much I loved her. But yeah, it's just interesting that it's very different for people that can't make that decision.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's not that, like we were saying too, it's not that death is necessarily easy, but as long as the people that have that choice, it's as long as that option is there. Absolutely. Absolutely. Becca, we see your kitty. It's adorable. Oh, hi, baby. Look at that cute little nose. I love cats so much. So much. All right. Thank you, Brittany. Samantha.
Hello. I echo a lot of the thoughts that everyone was sharing around managing their religious beliefs as it relates to healthcare. In one of the earlier chapters, when they were talking about some of the groups that oppose death with dignity, they mentioned an organization called Oregon Right to Life, and I had some immediate assumptions about what that meant, but I wanted to fact check myself and say, like, maybe these people are different. Maybe they have a unique perspective on life being sacred. And I was really frustrated because when I looked them up, they're against death with dignity, but neutral towards the death penalty. And I was like, how, what?
Of course.
Like, on their website, they define euthanasia as a physician injecting a person with drugs to end their life. So how is that different than the death penalty? And they are neutral towards that. So that's just one little diatribe. I was
What was
very
this again? What group was this?
Oregon Right to Life. It's one of the groups mentioned early on in the book as being like an advocacy group against death with dignity in Oregon. And it was somebody earlier, I think it was Alex, mentioned their leader saying like life is sacred and something to that effect. And I was just, they were exactly what I thought they were going to be. They're also against IVF and abortion, obviously. But I was just so mad about the death penalty part because it fits their definition of euthanasia. Um, but that said, I really enjoyed the book, and I shared in the chat earlier that I actually had the opportunity to hear Dr. Kevorkian speak when I was in college. And at the time, I didn't know a lot about, assisted dying, and he really opened my eyes just to the idea of like dignity in death and alleviating suffering and doing no harm, meaning also limiting the harm that is being done by the disease. Um, and so reading this book sort of reinvigorated how passionate I am about people's right to die in the way that they choose. And I actually was talking to somebody about the book and was explaining that they needed to read this book. And I learned about a new concept, which is death doulas. I had only heard about doulas as it relates to like birthing people and labor. But now I'm really interested in maybe becoming a death doula and like being able to support people through that because I'm also a caregiver to my father who's aging and he has COPD, which was mentioned several times in the book as being an agonizing way to die. And so there's just it really brought up a lot for me in terms of helping people pass in a way that minimizes grief and suffering and just really like celebrates the humanity of it all. So I really enjoyed the book. And this was also my first book for the book club. There's a lot of first timers here tonight.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Please come back. I love you guys. I will say too, something that would interest you, um, uh, is our shoot, I don't remember what month I have it slotted in, but in 2025 we're reading a book called Briefly Perfectly Human, and the author is a death doula, and her videos are just so remarkable. I can try and look for it really quick. Go ahead, Veronica. Let me find this for you and then I'm listening.
Hello.
Hello.
So I obviously probably share a lot of thoughts that other people have already expressed. I knew a lot about this topic already when I was in my master's program. I had to do a debate, and our assigned topic was assisted suicide. And I was on the pros side, fortunately. So I did a lot of research at that time. So a lot of the information wasn't necessarily new, but I appreciate like the stories and getting to kind of hear real life perspectives. I wanted to touch a little bit too on what Jason talked about in regards to disability. I mentioned this in the Discord too, but I remember several years ago when Me Before You came out. I had a conversation, which if you haven't read it, I'm about to spoil the book, so I apologize. But it's been out a long time, so that's on you. So the book deals with a character who was in an accident and became paralyzed from the neck down. And he ends up going to like Switzerland or something. And I guess in his case, it would be euthanasia because he obviously was not physically capable of, taking any kind of medication on his own. But there was a lot of kind of controversy about that, just as there is with the topic in general. But I remember that a mutual of mine told me that the book was ableist and was basically insinuating that the way to deal with disability is to just kill yourself. And I had a really long discussion with her because I was like, from my perspective, that's not what I'm hearing. That's not how I perceive this. And I myself don't have a physical disability, but my uncle does have a physical disability. He has Friedreich's ataxia, which is actually really similar to the ataxia that one of the stories in the book mentions. And as a result of it, it's a neurological thing, and he's lost function in his body slowly over the years. He's to the point now where he's mostly paralyzed. And he's talked a lot about the fact that he's grateful for the life that he's gotten to live, but at this point, like, he's incapable of doing anything for himself. And he doesn't feel like he's gaining anything by continuing to be alive. And I remember that used to upset me a lot. Obviously, as a child, hearing your uncle say they wish they were dead is kind of like, hard to hear. But right, but I began to understand it more over time, in that it wasn't as she talks about in the book, it's not a suicidal ideation. It's not about, wishing you were dead because you just don't have the will to live. It's you're in such excruciating pain, or you're unable to do anything for yourself. And so when I spoke to this person, I was like, from my perspective, like, and talking to my uncle about it, he was like, it's not saying that disabled people should kill themselves,
right?
Just that they should have the option to do that if that's the point that it comes to. And so she touches on it just briefly in the book, but that's something I've thought a lot about. And I think people use that as a slippery slope argument, that if we allow assisted dying, that we're going to just suddenly start killing off anybody who's disabled. And that's simply not the case. That's not what's going to happen. Now, could that happen? Could there be, somebody who does take advantage of this and there's harm? Yes. But I view it similar to, I always say with court cases, that I would rather 100 guilty people walk free than one innocent person, be incarcerated. And I feel kind of the same about this. Like, are we really going to restrict all of these people from doing something that they want to do for themselves because there's a chance that it could end up harming someone else? Right. That's the option we have to weigh. But anyway, so I just kind of wanted to add on to that, because I think that for me, that's always been one of the primary arguments that I've heard against assisted dying, is that, people are going to somehow take advantage of it, or that it's inherently ableist. And I like that this book kind of took a different, looked at it differently, more in the way that I have always kind of viewed it myself. And so, Jason, I appreciate you sharing your kind of firsthand point of view, since mine is more of a second person perspective.
Yeah.
So I
absolutely
really appreciate what you had to say, and I agree that that it is kind of frustrating that people decide that they know what's best for us when we know ourselves better than absolutely anybody. So the decision should be in our hands.
Right. And to think at the same time, in agreement with you for sure. It's like if somebody was disabled and decided to take that route, how is that any of my business? Like, the decisions that they make, how does that affect me at all? You know what I mean? Like, and there was an interesting article I came across, and I asked Anita Hanig about it in the podcast. It was from the United Spinal Association, talking about how, like, we've come so far with medicine. We've invented wheelchairs. Like, we've done so many things to give disabled people a life. And there was an interest, I posted a picture of it on Instagram where it was like steps leading up to a building that said, like, medicine, care, and this ramp was leading to assisted dying. And he was saying, like, this seems like such an easy way out for people when they have some, but I think we're looking at that incorrectly, right? Where I think it's, and I had a couple questions for Anita Hannig about assisted dying and disability, and she made sure to like make sure I understand that I differentiated the two where when it came to certain things. And it's not to like split hairs with any of this, but at the end of the day, how is it my business? Like, how is what people choose to do, whether or not they want to go to Switzerland or go to these places and actually completely, like Joe was trying to do, right? Joe was trying to make that happen because it wasn't happening here. Why is that up to me? Like, I
Well, and
just
that's the thing.
pull my hair out.
It is still the disabled person's decision.
Right.
We're not saying that we're going to start killing people. This isn't the death penalty. We're saying that we're giving them that option, and it's up to them to determine if their disability is disabling enough for them personally. It's not a broad statement on disability and quality of life. If you're disabled and you're living a great life, that's wonderful. But there are people who it is so debilitating that this would be a good option for them. And so, like you said, why is it who am I to say that you should or shouldn't do that? You're the one living with it. So
it's like me getting pissed at you for eating pizza for dinner. What the hell does that have to do with me? I don't care.
Don't talk about my pizza for dinner.
Eat what you want to eat. I'm jealous. No, I'm actually not jealous. I'm not at all jealous because Christopher made some crab legs for me. This is why I'm marrying the man.
Yeah.
This is why I'm marrying him. It's like that. Like, what's that? Anyway. Any conversation, of course, with bodily autonomy, whatever it is, it's like, man, we would get so far in life if we just minded our
business.
I stand with the party that minds their damn business. Anyway.
Yep. But thank you. It was a good read. I enjoyed it.
Good. I'm glad. I'm so glad. I'm glad. I mean, obviously, I feel like I should say this, even though I don't think it's going to happen, but I understand that everybody here has said that they like the book. If you didn't, please feel comfortable to say that you didn't like the book. I want to make sure I put that out there.
Oh, yeah,
I'm sure you guys would tell me the truth, but at this point, I might be a little nervous to be like, well, this part, whatever. So just so you guys know, you're more than welcome to speak your mind. Go ahead, Bird.
Hello. So I had a couple thoughts that I meant to say before, and they just occurred to me now. One of the, and they're kind of random. One of them is if anyone ever gets the chance, whether you're in LA or New Orleans, there is the Museum of Death. We have two different locations. I've been to the Museum of Death in New Orleans about 3 times, and it's one of my favorite things to do when we're there. My
Is the
best
one in
friend
LA open? Because when I lived in LA, they closed it. I'm sure. Did they reopen it?
I haven't been to that one. I was fortunate enough to talk to the man who runs both. I don't know what the proper terminology is for that, but so interesting. If anyone ever gets the chance to go to either one, I don't know if the LA one is still open. That's their bigger location. I've only ever been to the one in New Orleans. The one in New Orleans, I bring it up because it has the largest collection of Dr. Kevorkian's items. They are in possession of his original quote unquote death machine, like the actual suitcase. They have several different things that he owned, and it's fascinating. If you ever get a chance to go, definitely go. The last time I was chatting with one of the girls who work there, and she was like, yeah, I think that's probably the most expensive thing that we've been able to acquire. And he also, I didn't realize this, but he has an album that you can buy of music. He was an accomplished flautist and he played the organ. So he has a CD that you can buy on the internet of flute and organ music. And another interesting thing, I don't know too much about like his family, but it's pretty I think it's a reasonable assumption that his last name is not super common. So, something that I found interesting, one of my paramedic friends was in the medical center. I live in Houston. He was in the medical center, and there is someone who works within the medical field with the last name Kevorkian. So I think he has like a lasting impact. A lasting positive impact. So everyone who keeps bringing him up, it always makes me kind of smile because I have fond feelings for him and his cause. The other thing that I wanted to say was that reading this book, and I'm not saying that the case itself is super similar or even relevant, but something that kept popping up in my mind was the Terry Schiavo, think that was her last name, case in Florida. I remember growing up, I think it was like in the early 2000s. Her husband was her caregiver and her next of kin. She went into a permanent vegetative state, and he, was trying to advocate for her, saying that she did not want to prolong her existence in that situation, and her parents decided to legally challenge that. That was a huge case. If anyone is ever interested in something like that, I think having these conversations around assisted death probably normalizes, those types of situations and does a lot of good for a lot of people who are, maybe not super aware of the complications of trying to make someone hold on when it's not what they want. And it's like other people have said, it's not their business. It's not up to them. It shouldn't be up to them. So that kind of popped up in my mind when we were chatting about those things. So that's just what I wanted to add on.
I'm pretty sure, I don't know if it was just a rumor, but I'm pretty sure at the Museum of Death, if you pass out, they give you a t-shirt. Is that true?
I don't know. I've never passed out. They do have like signs, if you need to step out or if you need to leave for whatever reason, to just hold on to your ticket because we'll let you back in if you want to come back in. So
people did get kicked out when I was there because they were around taking pictures. You cannot take photos in there at all, and these two kids got kicked out because they were taking pictures on their phone.
Yeah, no pictures.
Really
and
cool
no
place.
It's the first time I went, I think we spent about 5 hours in there just because you just get so absorbed reading and just
in one room there's like a video showing an autopsy that's pretty gory, and I think that's what really gets people, but you could spend a good amount of time in there.
They show a lot. That video, I don't know if they change it or what, but there's a few different sections of that video where they show an autopsy, they show like recovering deceased people from like crime scenes and natural disasters and stuff like that. So like I said, if you ever get a chance to go, make it a priority because it is like our people's bread and butter for sure.
It is. It's a really good time. I mean, we all follow the like Spalding cleanup crew on Instagram, don't we? Come on. I love those.
I'm gonna chime in and say I know it wasn't technically allowed, but I'm pretty sure I was a bit late, but if she was talking about the murder museum or whatever, I went to the one in Hollywood and I may or may not have snuck some photos. I know you're not supposed to. I've never posted them, but it's for me. I love all of you, but I'm just saying.
How could you put them in the Discord?
How dare we need evidence of this?
We need evidence of this.
I know. I will post them anonymously. I don't think I can do that in Discord, but it's fine.
Okay. I had a great time. I only went once, and then I think they closed because of COVID in LA, and it was really upsetting because I was like, I don't know when I'm gonna get to New Orleans. So, but yeah, it was wild. It was a wild time. Alice, hello.
Hi, everybody. Well, I have to say that this is my favorite book ever. It's gonna be there for years and years.
Yes.
It's no pressure. It's nothing. I think maybe because I'm more mature and everything hits a different way. But I want to agree with what Belen said here in Mexico. I was doing some digging, and there is a law, but honestly, it's not a law about. They said it's a law about if you are terminal sick and you don't want more palliative care, whatever. And I say, well, that's not that with dignity at all.
Yeah.
Also, I agree with many of you. I mean, I'm a Catholic, but I'm pro-choice, and I know there is a lot of us. And also, I'm really into thinking about this because I don't think it's wrong that I to, there is one only thing you have to take care and be kind to others. There is not other excuses or any other points that they tell you, for at least for me. So it's very, I know people surprised when I say, oh yeah, I'm a Catholic, I attend church, but I'm pro-choice, and I also think people are need to be allowed to die with dignity. My grandmother was diagnosed with Alzheimer last year. It's not so bad right now, but it has been very difficult.
Yeah.
Because I'm just thinking that, I mean, she's a wonderful woman. She had a very difficult childhood. She lost two brothers. She lost her dad. And she was a teacher for most of her life. And I hate that she has to go in this way. I don't think she will make that choice to leave before it is, but it's her choice.
Yeah.
So, what is surprised me also of the book, I think, like, for example, the case of Bruce, that he was fighting for it, but then he decided that he didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
That very risks. I mean, he wanted to do it, now he didn't want to. And that's okay. I mean, we are willing to go as far as we can. I think as humans, we are part of this, but also as where they were saying of the book, they make you take or pick up choices that are very difficult. Um, I don't know if because I'm very sensitive right now about this, but it also think about the terms that's in healthcare, like warrior, like this is a warrior against this disease. And I was talking to a friend who is in another book club here in Mexico, and she said, like, she works in a hospital, but she's no doctor, and she was thinking about it. And I say, I'm reading this book, and it's just amazing. I just like talking about it. Like, you should read it. You should read it because it's great, but there is no books right now, so on Amazon. So,
Right.
and she said, like, she started thinking. I said, yeah, even in Spanish, we have a lot of, like, going to war words we use for enter patient, to release him, to if he's deceased. And he would like, oh my god, I want to read it, and say, well, anytime. But yeah, I think no matter if you are religious or your morals are not compatible are in the way to make, like, I was so angry when they got to these, like, blogs, like, oh my god, this doctor didn't do their request, and they couldn't do it. I don't know, because I mean, there are a lot of industries that allow that, and I don't know. I mean, if you study that, what's the point? I mean, I don't care if whatever
Alice, I think I lost.
I don't know. I saw that we're thinking about, and even we are culture so different. I don't know why. If we are going backwards or something in the world, but you know, it was like it was an entire ritual. It's like 9 days of mourning and all that. I understand modern life had changed that in distances and all that, and obviously, but if you can provide how they are willing to make laws to forbid us to die the way we want to. Thank you for the choice of this book. It was absolutely great. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm so glad you enjoyed it. I'm so glad, and definitely keep trying to convince your friends to read it, because I think it's a very important book to. I'm glad that people are doing that. Please recommend these books to your friends. I love it. I do love that. Emily.
Hi, friends. I wanted to talk about I with a lot of everyone's disabilities, but I work with children with cognitive disabilities, so I think it's important to mention them because they can't make their own decisions. And it makes me, I agree, I don't think it's a death penalty, but it does make me nervous putting that choice into caregivers and family members and stuff to then make that decision for their children who have cognitive disabilities and can't make that decision for themselves. Especially because we think about institutions that happened less than 50 years ago where people were actively trying to make that population go away. And it's terrifying to be able to say, well, here is all of this, tool to then, it's very scary. I also am a guardian of a 67-year-old man who cannot make his own decisions as someone who has cognitive disabilities. And so I do make those financial and medical decisions for him, well, by still giving him that, of course, that autonomy. But to think if I wasn't a good person, that could go very wrong if it ended up, if those assisted dying laws went further. So I agree. I think it's a great place. I think it's an awesome opportunity and a tool for people who need it. But I think as a society, we also have to think about people who don't have voices and to advocate for them and make sure we're not going backwards. So that's all.
Absolutely.
That's all. Bye.
I also just want to say I love that we have so many new faces in here, but I also love that the old faces are talking. So glad some people have been in this book club for years, and this is the first time y'all have spoken.
Never me, not me.
I'm so glad. Thank you. I appreciate it. Jess.
All right. This is also my first meeting. So here we go. I've been going off in the chat a little bit, but I mentioned I had a cat and an inflatable cone. He's displeased.
Oh.
But, he's healing, so he'll be okay.
Inflatable cone.
He got into a little bit of a tussle with his brother, and you need him to leave it alone. So, inflatable cone. Anyway, so I know. So I just thought I would mention, it's been kind of talked about a little bit, but I thought I would mention that I thought it was really great that the author included a variety of experiences, including one that went really poorly, which I know has been brought up. Because I think one of the things that people would be really quick to critique about this book is if it was all like, and it was beautiful and everyone smiled and all of that. So I think
everybody
was really
got
smart.
their good. Yeah. No.
Yeah. So I thought it was really smart that the author was like just really open with the experiences that she witnessed and good, bad, and ugly. Because it's not always perfect as we read.
Yeah.
And just to know that like since his experience, like things have improved and like to see the growth and the changes and things like that I think was also important. So I just appreciated that aspect of it. And I think it was a good thing to sort of like set herself up well to defend her, points there.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'll leave you all with the cat.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up because she does mention that in the podcast, that she actually got a lot of feedback and maybe some slack from or not flack, but people in the death and assisted dying community weren't really happy with her that she included that story. They said, that really doesn't seem to help our case. But she also wanted to show that, like, no, this means that we have to have our case. Like, this shows that, like, this can go horribly wrong. And there needs to be better systems in play for people who want this, because right now it's not, it could go wrong. Horribly wrong. I mean,
Yeah.
it's so scary.
Well, I imagine the only way to improve those things is to understand when they go awry and improve them, right? So yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Also, love the cat. Please bring your children and cats to this. When I say children, I mean please bring your furry friends to these meetings. I love to see them. Let's see. I have to hop off. Okay, no worries. Yeah, you guys can come and go as you please. We've had a good amount of people drop out of here, but that's totally fine. I'm still live on Instagram. We're still going strong. 9 o'clock. I'm still here. I'm still chilling. I'm still listening. Let's go, Addie.
Hey. I'm one of the ones that have been here for years, but rarely talk.
Yay!
I did love the book as well. But I am up in Canada, and I just wanted to chime in that our maid laws, they're very supportive. Like, they're very pro-choice and believe in autonomy, and they do their best to reflect that. But also I thought it was interesting because I think it was only in like 2001 or something. They took out a clause for the eligibility that there needs to be a foreseeability of natural death. And they actually removed that. So it gave more people the option, such as people with disabilities who may want it. And one of the big things that's happening now, which I think is delayed now till 2027, but they're discussing the eligibility for people whose sole disability is some sort of mental illness and how that looks, and giving them the opportunity to do this as well if it's something that they deem they want. Which I think is great. And I think there's going to be a lot of discussions around that because it kind of brings back what everyone was saying with people who have some sort of disease that kind of stops them mentally from being able to make that choice, and then agreeing that people with mental illnesses can do it. It's going to be interesting to see how that all falls, I guess. So
definitely.
We'll see. Yeah, but one of the other things too with that's kind of going the opposite direction is there was a lady who was disabled who applied for MAID when they took that clause out, solely because cost of living was getting too expensive, and she was getting into a position where she couldn't afford to rent a house, and she chose death over homelessness. And then that became a huge discussion up here as well. And it's just sad to see that, like, sometimes our government can't take care of everybody the way they should be when they're advocating for this MAID law in such good ways, but then you see that happening to people who also need help that don't necessarily want to die, but they feel that it's their only option. So it just brings in a different perspective.
Canada's interesting too because they actually do the essentially euthanasia, where they have a doctor administer the medicine, which I feel like is the smartest way. Like, why are we it's like Breaking Bad down here, where you're crushing up towns in the kitchen for people to drink of liquid that, and then like Anita Hannig talked about that in the podcast too, where she's like, sometimes it doesn't like break up all the way and it doesn't blend.
Yeah.
And like, am I doing this right? It's like somebody taking home an IV. I don't know how to put that in. I don't know what I'm like. It feels safer for a doctor to do it.
I agree. And I thought it was interesting too, because she talked a little bit about disposing of the drugs if they chose not to use them. And there wasn't really any sort of like people weren't really tracking them, I guess. So they could find their way into, I don't know, there's just so many open options for them to go bad and in the wrong hands. And yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah. Where are you in Canada?
I'm on the East Coast in New Brunswick, near Maine. Yeah.
Yeah, we had one of the chapters that we were opening up, there was somebody that was in Ontario area. I don't know the exact city, but I was gonna say we do have a Canada chapter, but that's a little far.
It's a little far.
It's a little far. But yeah, we hopefully that's starting up very soon. But yeah. Thank you for being here.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Kelsey.
Hello.
Hello.
There were like 12 people earlier. I was intimidated, but now I'm here. And I'm not turning my camera on because I look like hot garbage. So
I think you and Ashley both were like raising your hand and then putting your hand down, and then raising your hand and then putting your hand down.
Like, eh.
Am I gonna embarrass
But
him?
no.
Him later? Okay, go ahead.
I'm calling her out later. No. So I agree with a lot of what everyone else has said as far as like the nuances of this discussion and like why these rules are important and like the bodily autonomy part of it. So I will talk about another part of this that I really enjoyed, and that was her endeavoring to bring more of a conversation about death and what that looks like, and to demystify that for people, because for whatever reason, it's probably because I'm weird as hell.
Mm-hmm.
But I, for like a long part of my life, like probably over 10 years now, have been very much like, oh, like, yeah, like, let us talk about death. Like, why is it so weird when we talk about dying? Like, I like want to have these discussions, and what does it look like when I die? And like,
yeah,
it's not been, and it was in the beginning, but like now I'm at a point where like, this is a non-distressing topic for me. I'm like, yeah, it's not going to be comfortable when people die, and there's going to be grief and sadness, but like no one gets out of life alive. So like, why aren't we talking about it?
What we all have
and
in
so
common.
I appreciated that was, I know, everyone ends this ride the same. So I was very appreciative that was the conversation that she also was trying to start in like writing about this and exploring this topic, is like, why have we demystified or like made death so mysterious, and like made our value of like, well, now we have to extend life at all costs, and like, is that always the right choice or the best choice for people, or what we should be, or what we should be like advocating for everyone regardless of individual choice and what people feel is best for them when that time for them comes, and being able to give people that choice. So
yeah.
And if I had to make one criticism of the book, I thought in the beginning it was kind of repetitive.
Same.
Just in she's like, but it's like super difficult to access. And I feel like that ended every chapter.
Yeah.
But also I feel like I had that thought and then she stopped doing it. So
no, I felt
it was not a big issue.
I did feel the repetitiveness a couple times where I'm like, okay. All right, I get it. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. I understand. Boo Catholicism. No, I'm just kidding. But there were some parts that yeah, I was like, okay, we've talked about this already.
Oh yeah, I won't talk about the rage, the full like rage I felt. I was like, doctors, because of their like religious convictions, and like, pardon my French, but like, fuck you, don't be a doctor then. Like,
I just feel like
what
that's
are we
illegal.
doing here?
I just feel like it's illegal in a way. But what can I do about it?
Here we are.
Here we are. All I can do is read books about it and talk with you guys and complain about it.
Be furious.
So, yeah. Well, thank you for coming. I appreciate your attendance.
I appreciate all of you.
Yeah, I'm gonna call you out, Ashley. Thank you for coming to book club. Miss your face.
I remembered.
I know. I didn't text you. I'm so proud of you.
I know. I'm so proud of myself.
I
got onto the Go meeting like 2 seconds before it all ended. I'm like, oh gosh. Okay,
yeah,
now I gotta switch.
I tried. I really gave it a chance. And there was probably maybe 10 to 15 people who kept trying to join this meeting, even though we were maxed at 100. So I feel somewhat okay about it. Like, hopefully they came into the live or something, but GoToMeeting was a nightmare. So
well, I mean, so I told you and I texted you, I drove to Florida from North Carolina and I finished 2 books. And I'm like, well, I might as well just go ahead and start our book for June. And so I had my 2 girls in the car in the back as I'm listening to this on the radio. And so
Joe's story really, I was listening to it and I had all of the feelings, everything that ranged from anger to sorrow. And then when Joe's story concluded, I had to stop the book. It broke me. And my daughter's like, "Why are you crying?" I'm like, it's okay, I'm fine. But coming from, growing up, grew up in Florida, deep in Free Will Baptist. And for those of you who know Free Will Baptist, if you know, you know. And so I was very, very, I had reservations, but I read anything and everything. I have a very open mind. If you know me personally, I'm very body autonomy. You do what you want to do with your body. It's none of my business. And so, I heard about this law in Oregon a long time ago, didn't really look into it. And so this book really opened my eyes. And a lot of the books that we have read in book club have really changed my view on death. And so not scared of it anymore, because it used to be one of my biggest fears, for some unknown reason. But again, if you grew up in the Free Will Baptist, if you know, you know. So this book and other books that we have read have really changed my perspective on death. And I was actually visiting my grandmother, who's 82 and very spry for an 82-year-old, runs a kids daycare and everything still. But I was talking to her about it, and she is deeply religious as well. And she's like, "Oh, I know all about that law." And so we had a really great conversation, because she's always the one who ends up being there for either family members or friends who have passed away, and handling things and helping them through that whole process, and the families through that process. And so it was really great to have that conversation with someone who I didn't think would have had the same viewpoints as I have developed as I've gotten older and we've read these books. But I listened to it as an audiobook. I have it on Kindle, and I think it does rank in there as one of my top for the year, followed behind Black Angels, because that was my favorite one. But
so good.
I really appreciate your selection in the books this year and going into next year, trying to get more involved. But I appreciate all the conversation and a lot of the viewpoints that other people have expressed. I have the same ones. So, and yes, I got intimidated by the crowd, and I'm not the kind of person to stand up and speak. So yes, I put my hand up and down probably 5 times throughout the entire meeting.
The only reason that I was watching is because I saw your face and I knew it was you, and I'm like, I'm still gonna call on her even if it's the end of this and her hand's not raised. But also I know because you were texting me and you said you loved this, so I wanted your input, so I appreciate it. And I'm glad you were able to have those conversations. I absolutely love to hear that. So thank you.
You're welcome. And now I'm gonna go back on mute. So love your face, love your hair, love the shirt. I'm gonna buy it.
Thank you. Keep the compliments coming, please. All right, Jessica.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm here tonight from Sweden. So it is 3:13.
Oh, that's right. What time is it?
3:13 in the morning.
Jessica.
I'm a night owl, so it's all good. It's fine. But this book, so this is my third book in this group, and it's my favorite so far. I've never read a book that I had to like set down and step away from, because I got so overwhelmed immediately when the book started. I was like, "Girl, say hello." Like, we just jumped right in.
Hello. Yeah.
And I wanted to just talk a minute about my personal experience with death. And in 2012, my dad passed away from COPD and pulmonary fibrosis, which is like the hardening of the lungs. And he wished for death in the few months leading up to when he died. And we did not know how to respond to that, because we had never, like, what do you mean you wish for death? But to see him struggle every single day, and it was so devastating. And he was such a great human being. He was such an amazing person. and to see such an incredible person go through something like that is absolutely horrifying. And I reading this book, it made me so angry that he didn't have that kind of option, because the way that he went out was traumatizing for me and my mom because we were there, and it was just not great. And I wish so much that he could have had a life, or like he could have had a death, like Ken. Was it Ken? I'm sorry, I can't remember the name. The man who the man, the blues.
Yeah, that was Ken.
Yes, yes. Like I wish so much he could have had something similar to that, because the way that he went was just devastating. And I mean, he was on 100% morphine, liquid morphine. It's rough. And I really love this book. I appreciate this club. And I took a little hiatus because I was writing my thesis, so I didn't have time to like read any of the books, but I am
fine.
back.
Thesis is important. A thesis is
Yes.
very important. What did you write the
Yes.
thesis on?
I'm
assuming you wrote it. Yeah.
Yes. I just graduated with my master's in library and information science. So my thesis was on the ethics of digitization.
Okay, well, upload it to the Discord, please, because I would like to that immediately.
I will definitely do that.
I love that. Congrats.
Thank you so much.
That's awesome. Welcome back. Did you get to go see Taylor Swift, or is that just a poster that you
Yes, I did. I saw her in Stockholm in May, and she was incredible.
I bet.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was great. I can talk about that more during the palate cleanser.
Totally. That's a good segue, unless anybody else has anything they wanted to say. I'm so glad that everybody loved the book, and I'm so glad that everybody attended. Friendly reminder, next month we are reading about Ted Bundy, A Light in the Dark. This is Kathy Kleiner Rubin's memoir and experience with Ted Bundy. She was one of the Chi Omega sorority sisters, and Ted Bundy did attack her, but she did survive. So this is her story. And Emily, I have a date where I'm going to chat with them. It's like mid July. I think July 18th is when I'm talking with both of them for the book club. Please send me questions if you have them. I have been told that Kathy will answer anything. She said she didn't want the questions ahead of time. She didn't want any heads up on any of that. She said this helps with her trauma by just talking about it. But I do need to ask Emily how exactly to say her name, but it is Emily Lebeau Lucchesi, I believe. She asked Kathy if they could write a book together. So they have this, and we are checking it out. And thank you, Rachel, for putting the podcast link in there. Definitely check out the podcast. It's so much fun. I've chatted with every author so far this year. And like I mentioned too, I'm going to be doing my archives bonus episodes where I chat with some of the authors that we have previously spoken to, such as Maria Smilios, who wrote The Black Angels, which, as you've heard, is a fan favorite. Man, that book is at a 9.4 out of 10 on our book club's website. It is yet to be dethroned. So if you are interested at all in some of the books that we have read, you got to start with Black Angels. I'm currently rereading it for our discussion tomorrow, and man, that book just rules. So anyway, cannot wait to chat with you guys. Our next meeting is a great question. When are we meeting again? Drum roll. I bet we're over 11,000 members as well, which is nuts. I'm going to refresh it. And then don't forget about chapters too. If you don't see your city and you want to start a chapter, please send me an email. I would love to get that going for you. Yes, we're at 11,012. Amazing. All right, when are we meeting? This is July 28th at 7 p.m. We typically meet on the last Sunday of every month if you guys are new here. If sometimes move it a day, like our August book, we are chatting actually in September because September 1st is that last Sunday. So I want to make sure that you guys have the majority of the month to chat. So I'm going to go ahead and end the live. Thank you guys so much for being here. If you were in the Instagram live, let me see if I could do that. Bye, everybody. All right, share. Sure, I'll go ahead and share that. And then let me end the recording.